Did you talk to Ken?
Call the joint county-city meeting together, and we'll take roll call on the city side.
Council members Anderson.
Here.
Vaniga.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Costello.
Here.
Jameson.
Here.
Knutson.
Here.
Litz. Staggers.
Quorum present to the city side.
And the record will reflect there is a quorum present for the county.
Let's please rise for a pledge of allegiance at this time.
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have to take a motion on the city side. Is there a motion to approve the regular agenda?
I so move Knutson.
Second, Costello.
Costello seconded. All in favor, vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Council members Anderson.
Yes.
Vaniga.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Jameson.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
Staggers.
That motion prevails. The regular agenda has been approved. Now, let's start with item number 1.
Okay, item number 1 is in second reading. It's an ordinance amending the 2002 revised zoning ordinance for Minnehaha County and the City of Sioux Falls by revising the standards for driveways, parking lots, and loading areas. Planning Commission recommends approval.
Pat Herman with County Planning. This is an ordinance that we have had a lot of requests from people out in the county that wanted to use hard surfacing. They wanted to use crushed asphalt instead of cement or just asphalt for areas that are commercial and industrial. And so we took a look at that. The Planning Commission asked staff to take a look at if that would be a possibility, and we found that we thought you could use crushed asphalt as a hard surface medium as long as you met the 4 requirements that we have listed there on the screen in front of you. So that was the first part that would be changing in the ordinance. And then the next screen, please. The next one was to add an exception that if you have an area where you have trucks or heavy equipment, that you would not have to hard surface that part of your lot. We've been doing that as a practice, but we never really had it in writing. And that text comes directly out of the Sioux Falls zoning ordinance. And then the last change would be made to Part B. We just had people being confused between Part A and Part B. They thought if they just didn't want to do A and do hard surfacing, they could put gravel down. So we're just trying to make it a little clearer for the public that if you're required to hard surface, you must do that. You don't have a choice to use gravel. So those are the 3 changes to this zoning amendment. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Others that wish to address
Yes,
the
Mayor,
joint?
I do have a question. So this ordinance change, this is going to affect the city of Sioux Falls also then, correct?
No, this is just the 3-mile joint area.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Further questions? Others that wish to address the joint meeting on item number 1?
Just a question, did anybody speak against this ordinance after the planning commission?
No, there was nobody there either way.
That's a good sign.
Move to approve, Mr. Mayor.
Brown moves for approval. Is there a second?
I second that motion.
Knutson seconds. Motion been made, seconded from the city side to approve item number 1. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to approve, will vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Council members Anderson.
Yes.
Vaniga.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Jameson.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
All members present voted 6 yes, 2 excused. Item number 1 has been approved.
Entertain a motion from the county.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Okay, let's go to item 2.
Item 2 is in second reading, an ordinance amending the 2002 revised zoning ordinances for Minnehaha County and the City of Sioux Falls by adding vehicle and equipment restrictions to the additional use section and supportive descriptions in the definition section of the ordinance. Planning Commission recommends approval.
Okay, and as was just said, this would be in the additional use regulations. We're calling this vehicle restrictions. And we're bringing this forward because we've seen an increase in complaints from county residents as we've gotten more people out in that area that they don't like seeing commercial vehicles in their residential districts, or there's farm equipment that's rusting away that they would like something to be done with that. So we are suggesting these amendments, and this has been checked over by both of the legal entities. So the first part is just the intro to the introduction. And then the part that's shown on the screen, we're highlighting that because this is where the planning commissions did make a change from what was recommended by staff, and they actually thought that we should divide residences in the county to two different areas. The first are where houses are clustered or in a subdivision. They thought the restrictions should be greater in that area for commercial vehicles than in places where it was just a standalone acreage. Right. So we're adding a definition for residential development area, and this would distinguish this area as anything that is zoned residential, is residential in a planned development, or is a subdivision of 5 or more lots. Next screen. So in those areas, it would allow vehicles up to the large cargo van size, or for the large dually pickups, those would be allowed. And so that would have to be 12,000 pounds or less, and they couldn't exceed 22 feet in length. And then on a standalone acreage, things like different size box trucks would be allowed. And next screen. There you can see probably the longest box truck would be a 20-foot box truck. But then when you got into something like a dump truck, which has a gross vehicle weight of 58,000 pounds, those things would not be allowed. It would be considered totally commercial and have to be on industrial or commercial land. We also talked about semi-trucks because they do have a pretty high gross vehicle weight. It's been common that we have allowed people to drive home their cab or their tractor of the semi, but not the trailer. The planning commissions wanted to continue that practice, so we have excluded them from the gross vehicle weight allowance for this part of the ordinance. The next part just says if you've got construction going on, you can have your commercial vehicles there. If you have a 6-month period where nothing happens, they would have to be removed, and that's exactly how a building permit would expire too, after 6 months. And then the rest, 3 and 4, are pretty standard. If somebody owns something that would fall into the definition of commercial equipment, but they only use it at their house, like maybe a bobcat for cleaning snow, they can keep that equipment. And then obviously we wouldn't want anybody living in any of these vehicles, and we don't want semi-trailers used for storage. The next section addresses recreational vehicles and equipment. We've had 3 types of problems with recreational vehicles. First, that somebody would run an unauthorized storage facility, that they are parked in the right-of-way for a great length of time, or that they're used as living quarters or as storage buildings. So the very first one, number 1, the Planning Commission, again, made some changes to the recommended ordinance. They felt that if somebody, we had said that anybody that had a recreational vehicle, if it was on your property, you had to either live there or own the property. And the Planning Commission wanted to allow an exception if somebody's brother wanted to store their boat there. And so they actually divided this section into 2 parts. And if somebody had property and they owned all the recreational vehicles on the site, they could have as many as they want. But the minute that somebody that didn't live there was storing a recreational vehicle on there, the maximum for the property would be three recreational vehicles, no matter what the property owner owned. So they decided that they wanted to give somebody a chance to store something else, but they didn't want it to turn into a storage lot, and so that's how they divided that. The next ones, 2 through 6 for recreational vehicles, are just, again, pretty standard, that you can't have them hooked up to utilities, you can't be used for human or animal occupancy, and you can't affix them to the ground. The next section, Section D, looks at agricultural vehicles and equipment, and our concern here, again, was just to address those pieces of equipment that seem to end up in the shelter belt or out at the end of the pasture, kind of in a graveyard there, and they do become an eyesore, and so this would give us the authority to have those removed from the property. The last section, Section E, is the township road maintenance vehicles. Most of the townships don't have large equipment buildings in which to store these vehicles. They're taken home and stored on the operator's property, and we wanted to ensure that that practice could continue. Then we are adding some new definitions to the ordinance. We talked about residential development area, and then adding definitions for the types of vehicles: vehicle, agricultural vehicle, commercial vehicle, and recreational vehicle. Warehouse is included in this ordinance because we needed to bump its number so we could get everything in alphabetically. And then the last section, we would be removing the current definition for commercial vehicles. And that concludes the staff report.
Questions? Others that wish to address the joint meeting on item number
And-
2?
Yes, and before you take a vote, the city, Mike Cooper is here for the city to handle some amendments on the city side, and then both boards will vote together at the end.
Good afternoon, Mike Cooper, City Planning and Building Services. Just a procedural comment directed to the City Council. When the Planning Commissions made their recommendation to approve this ordinance, as you heard, they did make some amendments to that ordinance from what the staff had drafted. Because of the time of the meeting came after our deadline to submit the ordinance to the City Clerk's office, what we heard at first reading for the City Council was the original staff version. So what we would like to do tonight is have the City Council approve an amended version of this before the final vote is made by both boards. Thank you.
Questions, Mike? Go ahead.
I'm not sure who to direct the question to, but on the campers, we just recently updated our camping for ordinances for campers, and that seems to be inconsistent with what we're doing here. Or am I missing something?
Those were specifically to campgrounds.
Okay.
And here we're talking about parking in residential areas. We have similar restrictions of RV vehicles and commercial vehicles in our residential areas.
Do we not allow for temporary parking of them?
Not in the streets over a certain period of time.
In this, are we allowing for any temporary parking of RVs in these areas?
It's not clearly stated in there, but, I mean, if somebody's visiting, we're not going to go out and do enforcement. We know they're leaving. We also do allow, you can get a temporary use permit. Mostly they're given for somebody that's like building a house and they want to live on site while they're doing that. You can do that through the building permit process. So if somebody was going to have a long-term guest, we certainly could do it that way, too.
Would there be an easy way to amend it, since we have to amend them for tonight, to amend something in that would be similar to what the city already has?
And I'm not familiar exactly what's in your ordinance.
I think we have a question from Ken.
Go ahead. Who has a question?
I guess maybe that's what we're looking at up there, but, and I'm not sure we're all looking at the same document, but under, on the document I have, it's page 3C, recreational vehicles and equipment. For the life of me, I don't understand why under item B, we're allowing somebody who lives in a rural area to store other folks' recreational vehicles. I thought we were always trying to, limit the numbers of storage things that folks could have.
Right, and when it came, as we wrote it as staff, we're not allowing that, but the Planning Commission had a discussion on it, and they felt you should be allowed to store family members or relatives, and it's pretty hard to, come up with a definition of who is family and would be allowed to do that. So they wanted to change it.
And a follow-up, if I may, so I don't know if you concur with that or not, but that's why you have storage units all over the city and the county. It's for people to store those kinds of things. So I would think if I own property, I would just as soon not have this item so that I could just say no to my friends and family. I can't do that because the ordinance doesn't allow for it.
Right. I guess we'll work with either way. I mean, if you would like to change it back, that's fine too, but.
I do have a question in terms of the amendments that the city is going to approve. Do we have those in front of us from the county also?
Actually, you've got the ordinances how it was amended.
As it is amended?
Right.
Thank you.
Yep.
I also have a
I have an
question.
answer for you from my info.
On the township road maintenance vehicles and equipment,
Yes.
to me, it just sounds like if you're a county government or a township, you can have one set of standards, but if you're a private contractor, you have another set of standards. Am I?
Well, I think we are trying to allow some allowance for the township because they don't have much money. They can't purchase land to put up these big equipment buildings to store grader in.
I think there's a lot of private contractors who don't
They're
have a lot of
stored.
money right now to put up big buildings
That's
to store
true.
equipment in.
Yeah. Yeah, but most of them aren't providing for the township to do their roads. I mean, if it's a contractor and they own the equipment to go out there and blade for a township, then they certainly can have it on their property.
Well, I think we got to remember that these township supervisors take, I think, the graders home often, and they also, the snow
Snow plows.
removal equipment, because they're spread throughout the township, and rather than to go get it, they just, tradition's been that they park them at their home. And I don't think anybody's had an objection to that.
No.
I've got a question, and I loathe asking questions, but I have a question. If I have 2 Sea-Doos and I have 2 snowmobiles, how many recreational vehicles is that? I feel like it's a trick question.
Well, as long as you own them, it doesn't matter. You can have
There's 4
endless.
licenses on them, but the trailer's separately licensed. So how many recreational vehicles is that?
Well, if you put them on the trailer, we'll count them as one.
Okay. Otherwise, they're in noncompliance, right? Because that
No, as long as they're yours and you're not storing anybody else's equipment out there, there's no problem.
Well, what if it
This
was...
is where it got changed by the planning commission. They felt if you were to store somebody else's, then we're going to limit you to
So we're really going by
3.
trailer, not by licensed vehicles then?
Yeah, for a
Yeah, but that's
snowmobile,
not
we're going
clear
to put
in-
them on a trailer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Further question, Dick?
I said supervisors take them home, but it's not, it's the equipment. The guys who run the equipment take them.
Okay.
Dick, in my comment is, that, absolutely, that makes a lot of sense, and I think everybody can see that's just a common sense approach, but I'm just saying the same applies for private contractors that do snow removal for various, potentially the townships or the county government or the city or other private businesses, that maybe it should work for them as well.
We're getting into somewhat of a commercial venture, too, which would
Further questions? Others that wish to address the joint meeting on item number 2? The amendment, where is the amendment? Do we have to amend it? After we approve it, do we have to amend it?
The recommendation by the Joint Planning Commissions includes amendments to the original version. So
We don't
the
have to
city-
do any,
The city council needs to approve the amended version.
okay, so once we get it approved, we just have to approve it. Why don't we just make a motion to approve as amended? What if we make that motion?
I'll move to approve as amended.
Let's do it.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me. Okay, second?
Second, Anderson.
Since amendment's there, let's just do it that way. Further comments on the ordinance as amended? Not all in favor for the city council side, vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilmember Anderson Jr.,
Yes.
Benega,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
No?
Jameson,
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
All members present vote. We've got 5 yes, 1 no, and 1 excused.
Do you have to have 6 on an ordinance?
5, I think, isn't it? 5. 5 for an ordinance. Pretty sure, isn't that right? Yeah. It's 5. We always said 5. If you have, for a veto, you have to have 6, or for a vacation, you have to have 6.
I would entertain a motion on the county side for the ordinance as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
no second.
The motion is second. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Nay.
Passed 3 to 1.
There's no other business to come?
I think we have old business, Mr. Mayor. I think we want to have old business.
What's old business?
This is for me.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor and Madam Chair, I walked into this room while Dee was talking about the multicultural center, and so I don't want to make this a big discussion or anything, but I, first of all, urge the city councilors to pay attention to this woman, because I don't think there's anyone in the city of Sioux Falls who's done more on behalf of refugees and immigrants. I don't think you have any idea what Dee Knutson has done through the years in terms of just personal relationships with that population. So Kenny Anderson and I are your representatives on the Board of Directors for the Multicultural Center, and there are a lot of issues that we are in the process of having to address here in the very near future. So I am certainly not in any way capable of asking you as city councilors to do what Dee was suggesting, but I would urge you to understand that it would be incredibly helpful for the Board of Directors as we move forward with the visioning based on the focus groups that took place in the community a few weeks ago. An audit of that organization would be incredibly helpful, and if you intend to do it, it would be incredibly helpful, I think, as we move forward with the visioning. So just want to say that I want to thank you, Dee, for what you've done for that community and for your request of your body of government tonight.
Further,
I would just comment, if I could, Mayor, in regard to the meeting that we had last week. There is an intergovernmental board that is comprised of the mayor, myself, and Commissioner Barth, and Councilmember Anderson, and I believe there is another city council member who is on the intergovernmental board. I think there are 5 of us, and so I'm not sure who that other representative is. But the county, I've been in touch with Marie Fox, and we'll be convening a meeting of the intergovernmental board, who is supposed to meet actually twice a year. Not sure that that's always happened. And following that meeting, we would probably come back with something of that nature and advise if that would be appropriate. So I just wanted to keep people advised, but we have asked them to set up that meeting.
Just as a point of information, the 2010 audit program already had an audit of the Multicultural Center in it. So, Rich Oakswell, the lead internal auditor, reached out to the concerns of anybody on the council, and we'll make sure that he extends that to the county commission as well.
Be very helpful. Thank you.
Great.
further business, old business? Seeing none, is there a motion on the city side to adjourn?
I so move. Knutson.
Knutson, second.
Second, Benninga.
Benninga, seconds. All in favor of that motion, vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilmembers Anderson?
Yes.
Benninga?
Yes.
Brown? Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Is there a similar motion for the county?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. A motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
You're welcome.
Meeting adjourned.